Hi book friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen. This is my April reading wrap up. So April was my birthday month, and instead of having a rigid TBR, I sort of just took a stack of books and I said, this is my stack of possibilities. Most of the books were just books that were standalones that I wanted to read real quickly and get them off of my TBR because I am trying to shrink that down a little bit this year. And that strategy worked out great. I had such a great reading month. I ended up reading 9 books with an average star rating of 4. I will take it. So let's talk about what I listened to on audio. First up was Frida McFadden's The Crash. I gave this 3 stars. Most of this book felt a lot less of a mystery than the other Frida McFadden books that I have read. I've only read a handful though, so keep that in mind. The entire book I was convinced there's no way that this book can end in a twist. I just cannot picture, I cannot think, I cannot guess what the twist would be in this book. And I was so wrong. In this story, we have a young woman. She is very pregnant. She is also very down on her luck. She is eating stale bread that she buys from her job at the grocery store. She is driving one night. It is really snowy. She hits a tree. She gets into an accident. And a big bearded lumberjack man comes to her rescue, and because the roads are not drivable, he takes her back to his house where his wife is a nurse, and everything just goes downhill from there. I was a little frustrated. Actually, I was a lot frustrated reading this book because the main character made the opposite decision of everything that I would have done. And the whole time in my mind, I was thinking, you wouldn't be in this situation if you would have just done what I would have done. Clearly, there wouldn't have been a book in that case. This was fast and entertaining and a great way to distract me while I was cleaning. And I listened to that via the Libby app. The next audiobook I listened to via Spotify. And this is a book I had physically, and it's been on my TBR for a while, but I was trying to bust through the TBR this month, so I did listen to this one, and it's The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Everything I've ever read by Christina Lauren, I've loved, and this was no exception. This was a 4.5 stars. The female main character, Anne, reminded me of myself. If I was thrust into a situation where everybody around me had so much money that they just didn't know how to spend it, I would have had a lot of the same reactions as she did. So in this book, we have Anne and West, and they get married when they're in college because it's the only way that they can apply for family housing. So they draw up a contract, and at the end of their college days, they separate, they go their separate ways. Anne thinks that they got divorced, but she did not read the fine print. So fast forward 5 years later, West is set to inherit a lot of money from his grandpa with the stipulation that he is married and for real married, not just married to get the money married. So he has to go find Anne, who he thinks is in medical school, and convince her to fake date, fake marry him for the sake of his inheritance. At his sister's destination wedding in, I think it was like the Philippines or Singapore or somewhere like that. When he goes to find her, he finds out she, in fact, is not in medical school. She just got fired from her job at the convenience store. She's helping to pay her dad's medical bills. She's an artist. She's half-baked most of the time. Definitely not the ideal candidate to bring home to your hoity-toity family. So they agree to fake date, fake marry, and try to convince his family that they have been in love for the past 5 years. I found myself laughing so much at this book. She's clueless about anything that has to do with fancy things or money. One of the things that really made me laugh is that she had to go get her nails done before the wedding, and they were in the airport, and she had to call him from the bathroom because she needed help with something. And turns out she couldn't button her jeans because she had long fake fingernails on. So things like that just kept happening over and over and over again. And of course, it's a rom-com. There's a happily ever after, and I absolutely loved it. Moving on to the Kindle on KU, I read Phantasma. I rated it a 4.5 stars as well. The vibes in this book are top tier, old Gothic New Orleans. In this book, Ophelia must enter Phantasma to find and save her sister, which she believes she also entered Phantasma. Think of Phantasma as a traveling circus that comes to town rarely or every so often. Once you're inside Phantasma, there is a series of trials for you to complete. You try not to die, and you try not to fall in love with your ghost host demon. I did knock half a star off of this because I felt like Phantasma, whatever that is, was not clearly explained. A little bit towards the end, we got a history of it, but it was still very, very unclear, at least to me. You just have to hold on, go for the ride, enjoy the ride, and not question it too much. The spice was spicing, but it wasn't anything overly dirty or smutty. And I loved how the ending set up book 2, which I will absolutely be reading. Then I went on and read Fragile Sanctuary, which is a romance mystery, and I gave it 3 stars. The only reason I read this was because of the hype. I saw it on Booktube. I saw some reviews about it on BookTok, and I thought it was really interesting because it is a romance mystery mashup. And I had never read anything like that before. My favorite part of the book was the found family. There is an adult woman and her mom, and the adult woman also has a daughter, a biological daughter, but then they have this whole slew of foster teens, and they remain a family well into adulthood. They meet up once a week for dinner. They are protective of each other. And I love that they don't try to change each other. They understand that each person is dealing with their own personal trauma, and they just roll with it. They're fiercely loyal. They're hilarious. I'm a little jealous of this found family. I did like the romance, and I did like the mystery storyline. And while there are more books in this series following the different siblings, I don't think I'm going to continue. It wasn't bad, it was just very middle of the road for me. Now, if romance or mystery, specifically romance, is your main genre that you read, I would definitely recommend this book to you. For everybody else, if you're even a little bit interested, I would recommend you at least pick up the first book and give it a shot. It's not going to be a waste of your time. All right, let's move on to the physical books that I read. I read Dungeons and Drama, and I can't remember who the author is because I forgot to pull it off of my shelf. But I gave this a 4.5 stars. I loved this book so much. There's no spice, thankfully, because the main characters are in high school. And the female main character gets in trouble, and her punishment is that she has to work at her dad's gaming store after school, which she just thinks is the end of the world. I'm a little jealous. I don't think that that's a punishment. And this is where she meets somebody that she goes to school with, and they find out that they each have somebody that they want to make jealous. So they decide that they're going to loosely fake date just while they're in the presence of these other 2 people to make them jealous. And of course, a real romance happens. Everything is so cute. The family and the side friends and the side characters make this book so good. I actually cried. I shed some tears. I can't wait to pick up book 2, which I already have. This is not a sequel. It's about completely different people, a completely different situation. And actually the synopsis for book 2, which I think is called Dating and Dragons, I think sounds better than Dungeons and Drama. So I'm excited to see if I like that book just as much as I like book 1. Then I read First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This is my first B.K. Borison book, and I read this for an in-person book club that I actually didn't get to go to. I rated this a 5 stars. So B.K. Borison is writing 3 books that are all based on popular 90s rom-coms. This one is based on Sleepless in Seattle. She has 2 more coming out. One of them is based on When Harry Met Sally, and the other one on You've Got Mail. This had just the right amount of spice for my liking. She did such a great job portraying the want and the longing that Aiden felt for Lucy without being over sexual. I love that in this book, the female main character, Lucy, is an auto mechanic. And I love the dynamic between her and her ex, who are co-parenting their daughter, Maya, along with her ex's husband, who lives next door. So I think that that's super unique, and it worked out really, really well, and it made for some actual laugh out loud moments. One night, the daughter Maya calls into a late night talk show or a late night radio show because her mom is lonely. She feels like she needs a date. And this radio show that she calls into is romance themed. Well, this radio clip of Maya talking on the radio goes viral. Some blocks fall into place and Lucy ends up with a guest spot on the radio show where she screens callers and goes on dates and looks for love. There were some lines in this book during really heavy conversations that just caught me off guard and made me cry. Most of them were about parenting. The close and forced proximity trope in this book was done so well. And if the other two books in the series are like this one, then B.K. Borison hits it out of the park. I do plan on picking up Love Light Farms and seeing if I like those as well. The next book was a little bit of a disappointment, Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. And I did rate it 4 stars, but the reason that it's a disappointment is because every book that I have read by Ali Hazelwood, which has been everything, has been a 5-star. Obviously, this was good. I gave it 4 stars. Just didn't blow me out of the water. Right from the get-go, we are warned that this is not a rom-com, that this is an erotic love story. But that's not why I didn't like it as much. Her other book, Deep End, is very spicy, and I gave that 5 stars. I just didn't feel a connection to anybody in this book, and I think it's because I'm comparing Rue, the female main character, to the other female main characters in Ali Hazelwood's books. All of her female characters are witty and sarcastic, and their inner monologues and their comebacks are so hilarious. And Rue here is the complete opposite. She is super guarded, super serious, with good reason, because she has gone through some trauma. So it's very understandable, no judgment. So that may be unfair to poor Rue, but it did make my enjoyment of the book go down. I think that the balance of plot and spice was really well done in this book. And she does have another book coming out this month, which I just found out about, called Perfect Summer Romance. I think that's what it's called. And it has something to do with this book. And I don't know if it's following different characters. I don't know if it's a sequel. I have no idea, because I didn't love this book. I'm not super excited about Perfect Summer Romance. Will I read it? Yes. Will I get it the day it comes out? Probably. Will I read it really soon? Also probably. But I'm not excited or looking forward to it enough to read the synopsis. The excitement just isn't there for me yet. And that leaves me with the last 2 books, which I'm going to actually talk about at the same time. Powerful and Fearless. Powerful is the novella. This is Adina's story, and I wasn't going to read this. I wasn't sure if this was a novella, part of the story that needed to be read. And after reading it, I still sort of feel that way. We know from the get-go what happens at the end of this book. There's no surprises. However, if you don't read Powerful, I don't believe Fearless is going to pack as emotional of a punch for you. You'll still enjoy it. My daughter and I buddy read this. She did not read Powerful, and she still loved this book. But there's some stuff that happens specifically towards the end of the book that you wouldn't really grasp the full meaning of. It would just go over your head if you had not read Powerful. I believe Powerful is meant to be read in between Powerless and Reckless, but I don't recommend that. I recommend reading it in between Reckless and Fearless for 2 reasons. One, it'll give you a little bit of a refresher of what happened to Adina in the first book. And the second reason is because it will be more fresh in your mind what happened to Adina when you read Fearless. I did give Powerless 3 stars. It's a novella. Not a whole lot happens in it. Or should I say, not a lot of new stuff happens in it. And I gave Fearless 5 stars. I did not like Reckless very much. I think I gave that 3 stars. It was very heavily second book syndrome, so I was nervous about Fearless. But you have no reason to be nervous if you have not picked up Fearless yet. I had so many theories. Some were right, some were wrong, some were sort of right. My daughter's theories were actually more closer to what happened than mine were. Proud mom moment there. But this was such a great ending to the trilogy. Now, I have not done any research, and I don't know if Lauren Roberts plans to write any more books in this series, but I can tell you that there are some plot points that are not fleshed out, that are not wrapped up in a nice tight bow, And I feel like that was done on purpose so that we have more room for more books in the future. I can't say too much more about this book because it is the third book and I don't want to give anything away. But all I can say is that this series as a whole was so good. Don't let the fact that it's YA romantasy scare you off if that type of a thing doesn't usually appeal to you. And if you read Reckless and it left you feeling meh, don't let that scare you away either, because Fearless will completely make up for it. Usually at the end of my monthly wrap-ups, I show you the books that I have acquired, that I have hauled in the month. But because it was my birthday month, I actually got more than on a normal month. And so I think I'm going to make a completely separate video of that sometime in May or June. So if you're interested in the books that I got for my birthday, be on the lookout for that video. If you're still here, please leave me an emoji of a book in the comments below. You can find links to my other social media in the description. As always, I appreciate your likes, your comments, and your subscribes. And until next time, happy reading.